I've talked a lot of crap about Spider-Man Friend or Foe. Spider-Man Friend or Foe sucks. And perhaps some of that hate was unwarranted because despite being super confident that the game is utter crap and not worth anyone's time, I never actually sat down and played the game proper. I remember my little brother getting it for his birthday, or maybe it was Christmas, and once I saw the type of game that it was, I never bothered to give it a second look. A dumbed-down, kid-friendly Marvel Ultimate Alliance, or a new Spider-Man game without an open world or realistic web-swinging mechanics. I mean, what year is this? 2002?
Pass.
Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, when did Diego get so stylish? First off, thanks for noticing. Secondly, this level of drip was achieved with the help of this video's sponsor, Into the AM. See, the team over at Into the AM believe that clothing is a canvas to express your passions. For me, I love retro 80s inspired art. Vibrant colors, neon lights, synthwave aesthetics, and now my back is plastered with it and I couldn't be happier. I was genuinely really impressed with the quality of the ink used to make these designs. They're really bold and vibrant and just feel like they'll last longer than your average t-shirt. These graphic t-shirts not only look great, they're also made with high quality fabric, so they're super comfy and soft to the touch. Now don't bother sitting down because you'll just stand up when you hear this. They're running a bundle deal for their graphic tees, which is 3 for $60, but you'll get an additional 10% off when you use my link down below. So what are you waiting for? Get rid of your old washed up t-shirts and get yourself something that pops. Thank you so much Into the AM for sponsoring this video. Now back to it. I remember being really confused when I came across this game's advertisement in the back of the Spider-Man 3 game manual, no less. A new twist on the legend, a new take on the movies. Such a vague tagline. What added so much to my confusion was that how was it that we could be getting another Spider-Man game so soon after Spider-Man 3? Fall 2007? Spider-Man 3 was released on May 4th, 2007. Friend or Foe will evidently be based on the Raimi Spider-Man given the branding seen here, and Spider-Man 4 is clearly still a ways out. Clearly, right? I mean, I'm still waiting for it. My Spider-Man obsessed mind started filling the gaps of what this new game could possibly be. If memory serves right, the teaser website for Friend or Foe went live in the summer of 2007, and it offered a bit of info of what this new game will entail. I remember one of the bullet points saying that the game was going to combine elements from all the Raimi movies released at the time. Now, call me crazy and a little too ambitious, but my mind painted this game as the entire Raimi trilogy combined into a single game. Not a collection packing Spider-Man the movie game, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3, but a brand new game that retells the trilogy as a seamless experience. Meaning we would get Spider-Man 1 with modern web-swinging mechanics and an open world, better graphics across the board, and most importantly, a redo at the disaster that was Spider-Man 3, at least the PS2 version. But on October 2nd, 2007, I was faced with the reality that Friend or Foe is far from what I envisioned. Breaking the long streak of Treyarch developed Spider-Man games, Next Level Games takes the helm here. They're also responsible for the surprisingly solid Captain America Super Soldier, which reminds me, I gotta get around to covering that. If Spider-Man Friend or Foe does anything right, it's catching the audience's intrigue with a stellar opening cutscene. Seriously, this thing still holds up fantastically to this day. Visually, it's top notch. The lighting of the scene captures the vibe of the movies perfectly. You see what I mean? The way Spider-Man is lit here by the ambiance of the night, it just evokes so much of the movie's imagery to me. The action is kinetic and well animated. We have James Arnold Taylor voicing Spidey doing an excellent job of delivering those quips. Hearing him take the reins for the Sam Raimi iteration of Spidey from Tobey Maguire made me picture an alternate reality where they just hired Taylor to voice him in the games. And honestly, it might have been for the better.
Don't call back!
We also have Josh Keaton returning as Harry, aka the New Goblin, which is always amusing to see given how he would go on to be the de facto Spider-Man for a while. Seeing Spidey and Harry working together to fight these villains reminded me of how I used to envision an alternate reality where Harry didn't die at the end of Spider-Man 3. Once he went through his redemption arc in the final act of the movie, it was very predictable that he was going to be killed off, because if not, wouldn't he and Peter go on to be a crime-fighting duo? There's no way they'd carry over that dynamic into the next movie. It's just too different from the status quo. So it's kinda cool seeing that idea become a reality in this game's opening. Now, you might be thinking, aren't most of these guys supposed to be rotting in the dirt? And you'd be correct. This is what the new take on the movies tagline was referring to. This game is inspired by the character designs of the Raimi movies, while applying a more stylized and cartoony take on them that I think works really well. Venom is a lot more hulking, but is still very much recognizable as the Raimi version. Doc Ock is kinda doing his own thing, he doesn't resemble Molina at all, but the wardrobe is there. I think Green Goblin's armored look goes really well with this style. The geometric design of that costume is accentuated and sort of just makes it easier to swallow. Sandman just looks like Sandman. I'd go as far as saying that I think Spider-Man's in-game model here is the best looking one that's based on the Raimi movies, barring the one from Marvel Spider-Man and all the crazy mods fans have put out there. I do wonder, why even bother using the iconography of the movies if the connections to them end at the character designs? Friend or Foe clearly ignores the events of the movies, with 80% of the supporting cast being alive with no real explanation. Ultimate Spider-Man released between Spider-Man 2 and 3, so it's not like Spider-Man video games of this time have to be based on the movies, but I digress. While Spider-Man is fighting the Fearsome Four, symbiote-like creatures mysteriously show up and start teleporting the villains and Harry one by one. Before they get to Spidey, a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier shows up and beams our hero to safety. It's here where we meet Nick Fury, and he gives us a briefing on the situation at hand. The same meteor shower that was carrying the Venom symbiote had a stray meteorite that broke apart, with each piece carrying a symbiote shard and landing on different parts of the Earth: Tokyo, Tangaroa Island, Cairo, Transylvania, and Nepal. The symbiote-like creatures are a byproduct of these shards, officially dubbed Phantoms. Perpetual holographic avatar nanotech offensive monster. The holographic part is a huge clue to who this mysterious mastermind is. It's our mission to venture out into these locales and retrieve the symbiote shards before the you get it. The helicarrier acts as our hub world, where we can purchase combat upgrades, bonus content, mess with game settings, and select different sidekicks. That's right, Spider-Man Friend or Foe is a cooperative endeavor. Player 2 can take control of any of Spidey's villains seen in the opening cutscene, as well as other classic goons like Scorpion and Rhino. Not only that, but we also have other amazing allies to recruit, like Black Cat, Iron Fist, and Blade. There's an impressive number of unlockable characters, given that this is a Spider-Man video game and not a Marvel Ultimate Alliance or even X-Men Legends. There are 16 in total, with the caveat of certain characters being console exclusives. Carnage and Electro are PSP exclusives, Silver Sable is excluded from the PSP and PS2 ports, and Prowler, Lizard, and Scorpion are excluded from the PSP port. I played the PS2 version, which still left me with a more than serviceable 13 playable characters. These characters are not available to you from the get-go though. Interestingly enough, Prowler is the only sidekick available to us in the beginning. To expand the roster, we'll have to venture out into the world, our first stop being Tokyo, Japan. Each world contains 4 levels for you and your co-op buddy to fight Phantoms through. They all have different aesthetics, like Transylvania's appropriately spooky theme and Tangaroa Island's Beach Island Dream getaway vibe. Phantoms also change in visual style to match the environment, like how Phantoms in Tokyo will be robot sentries and the ones in Cairo are wrapped like mummies. I appreciate the detail of Phantoms looking more and more like symbiote monsters the further you get into the game, showing just how much more powerful they're becoming. But man, this first level's generic industrial plant setting and boring robot Phantoms does not make for the best first impression. I'll be upfront, Friend or Foe has very basic level design. Levels are linear and offer very little in the realm of exploration. You have the occasional hidden room containing a collectible or bonus room that unlocks a new arena in this game's versus mode. Yeah, this game has a versus mode. This is where real ones settle their arguments. But these collectibles are very hard to miss and are not really exciting to track down. The harsh truth is that once you've played one level, you've kind of played them all. Each level offers the same gameplay loop as the last, just with a different coat of paint. Friend or Foe doesn't bother to introduce new mechanics, level layouts, or gimmicks to break up the monotony of beating up phantoms. In a nutshell, all you're doing is walking into an open space, beat up enemies, rinse and repeat. Something that I think could have gone a long way is adding some platforming challenges, especially since web swinging is not really a thing here. Holding down the jump button will make Spider-Man do a single web swing. You can't connect multiple web swings, and it's not precise enough to cheese your way through a hypothetical platforming challenge. Instead, this web swing is treated more like another attack ability. So as the player, you'd have to rely on your jumping precision when playing as Spider-Man, just like every other playable character here. I really needed something like this to make me feel engaged in between combat encounters. But whenever you're not fighting enemies, you'll be jogging along flat surfaces, running across a bridge, and standing on pressure plates to open a big door. What I found myself looking forward to the most was encountering whatever villain or guest hero I'll be recruiting to my roster and seeing what special abilities they had to offer. So what of the combat system in Spider-Man Friend or Foe? For the type of game that it is, that being one aimed at younger audiences, it's serviceable. It's not as simple as the combat in a LEGO game, but also doesn't offer as many options as the combat system in Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Since he's the title character and constant member in any given duo, Spider-Man is given obvious favor and combat options. In the beginning of the game, his abilities are very limited, but the further along you get and as you collect tokens to purchase new web abilities, I was surprised by the amount of attacks I had to beat up phantoms with. I found myself doing multiple hit combos, to uppercutting an enemy to launch him into the air, which then allowed me to air juggle them for a bit, grabbing them and slamming them to the ground. Then seamlessly transitioning to a different enemy by pulling him from across the arena. Switching between web abilities is done with L1 and R1, and this is where you can get a bit creative. You can pull an enemy to you using the web grab ability, uppercut him, then switch to web balls to juggle him in midair. We're not talking about anything on the level of a Devil May Cry or something like that, but I was surprised with how fluidly I was able to link different attacks. Even though the combat system is relatively limited, it's polished for what it is. My main issue with it is that the supporting cast is not nearly as fun to play as in comparison to Spider-Man. Like I said before, Spider-Man's abilities are the most fleshed out. Every other character has their basic attack button, a grab, and just 2 special abilities, which you have to unlock, so it's possible to not get the most out of each character if you don't have the tokens, at least for your first playthrough. Thankfully, each new character is introduced at a steady pace. So even though you might get bored of one fast due to their limited moves list, the next one is always right around the corner. Recruiting characters is mostly done after beating them in a boss fight, which most are lackluster to say the least. They're under the control of a mysterious device attached to their chest. Upon releasing them from their trance, they'll agree to join you to stop whoever's behind all this for, and I paraphrase, messing with my dang head. Other heroes like Iron Fist and Blade willingly join you. Call me a simple man, but this was all the motivation I needed to see this game to the end. When do we ever get to play as characters like Sandman or Dr. Octopus? I don't think there's any other game that lets you play as them that's not a fan game or mod. I think that's a pretty cool medal for Friend or Foe to be the owner of. And it does a decent job of giving each villain unique attacks that are representative of their powers. There are some power-ups you can pick up along the way, like invincibility and mega damage, but the one to know is the Hero Strike power-up. This lets Spider-Man and his sidekick perform an ultimate move that clears the screen of enemies. The animation that plays out is different depending on who you're paired up with, and some of these are pretty cool. Unfortunately, they all function exactly the same. You're essentially just triggering a short animation. There are no extra game mechanics like the fusion attacks in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 or anything of the sort, which I think was a missed opportunity. Toward the end of the game, when you've collected most of the symbiote shards and it is revealed that, surprise surprise, it was Mysterio responsible for these phantoms all along, Spider-Man dons a symbiote suit to even the odds, but I don't think it really does anything mechanically. Like, Spider-Man doesn't get access to new attacks or do extra damage. At least not that I could tell. But it was kinda cute seeing a short little symbiote Spidey standing next to a chunky Venom matching each other.
Don't talk to me or my son ever again.
The final fight against Mysterio was... it was fine. An interesting thing about the boss fights in this game is that for some reason, if you're playing single player, your sidekick is suddenly absent during the boss fights. I don't know, I thought that was weird. As a reward for saving the day, Nick Fury pays off Spidey's student loans. And as hopeful thinking for a sequel, Nick Fury teases using the collected symbiote shards for a Project Carnage. Or maybe they were just contextualizing getting Carnage as an unlockable character in the PSP port. We also get one last sidekick to join the roster, the New Goblin, which is unfortunately just a reskin of the Green Goblin. Sure, reusing the Green Goblin's moveset for the New Goblin can be justified, but Harry does have his own tricks up his sleeve to make him his own, like the electric sword thing and his own version of the glider. I found it weird that Harry wasn't the first available sidekick to us, or that we didn't encounter him with a level with a proper cutscene like everyone else had. He was a clear-cut, straight-up sidekick in the opening cutscene alongside Spider-Man. Yet, he's treated like a secret bonus character at the end of it all. If anything, Prowler, the first sidekick you get, should have been the secret bonus character you get in the end. You can also access the symbiote suit from this containment tube, but again, it's just a cosmetic thing. So does Spider-Man Friend or Foe deserve all the hate I've been giving it all these years? Not at all. Keeping in mind that this is a game aimed at the younger audience, it's a serviceable beat 'em up that I imagine would be a bit more enjoyable to play with a friend. Seeing the villains be reworked in this more cartoony art style was neat, as well as the silly little interactions between them and Spidey. I only wish we had a bit more of that. The cutscenes we get here are few and far between and are very brief. Friend or Foe desperately needs something to keep it from feeling repetitive. What makes the LEGO games fun to play is the cycle of beating up enemies, solving puzzles, and collecting all sorts of knickknacks. I feel that it was a missed opportunity not utilizing the diverse cast of characters and their abilities in Friend or Foe, and tying them into some sort of unique gameplay gimmick. Like using Sandman to make his way through air vents and small crevices in the environment, or using Rhino to ram his way through walls inaccessible to everyone else. Friend or Foe is inoffensive, but I find it hard to recommend when there are much better alternatives out there. Oh, you know what? I actually do have some old footage of me absolutely whooping my little brother's ass in this game's versus mode. Check it out.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop! Please stop!
Gonna cry?
Special thanks to Sam, Carlos Fontes, and Punk Samurai 1985 for subscribing at the top tier. You guys are certified superheroes.